Hi, I'm Lauren.
I'm Audrey.
And I'm Brent.
And this is Only Child Energy. And today our podcast topic is Verity by Colleen Hoover.
Woo.
Yeah, I'm super pumped.
Audrey, do you want to give context to how hard it was for you to read this book?
I'm going to just say now, I read maybe the first 3 chapters and then read a summary. So I'm so sorry. This wasn't the week to read something I wasn't truly invested in. But hey, I did the high school thing and read SparkNotes. So
I feel like this says so much about the three of us too as students. Audrey's approach, mine reading it the very day that, no, not very day, but close to, and Lauren having read it multiple times.
Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. I'm fine. I'm not. I mean, I did know this was going to happen. I did not expect. I was going to be shocked if you said you had read it. To be perfectly honest with you, because I knew this was not your vibe.
I mean, I like trashy romance things. There's just some that I can't do. No shade to those who enjoy that.
Some shade.
Wow.
Brent's being divisive on the pod.
No, but I think this, okay, I have a list of questions, but we're going to jump to the second question because we are going to talk about the romance genre as a whole before we get started and how it's changed from, Fabio cover, your grandmother read it and hid it in her nightstand, to a very out in public women reading romance, women discussing it, not just women, but a large portion.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I work in a library.
Do you?
I do.
Wow.
So there are tons of old little ladies that give me their romance books. Sometimes they set them on the front, which before that's where the barcode was, and that I needed that. But now it doesn't matter. But also I'm I don't care what you read. Because here's the thing, I flip through the books and I don't judge the person who's reading the Amish romance novel. I do, however, I just it couldn't be me. I am always curious as to what's in this. Do they hold hands and it's forbidden? But then you have but then you have the other end of the spectrum where it is, the to love a duke. To love a royal man, and then you have the Colleen Hoover haunting Adeline of it all. So,
No, because my mom has the Amish romance. I really want to read one because now I'm just really curious because we will actually. I share a Kindle with my mother. That's a horrible idea, might I add.
That's a bad idea.
It is. But what cracks me up is that woman has picked up my romance novels because now they have cute covers and you don't know they're romance novels, and I've gotten, hey, I read this, it was good, and I go, I know there is smut in that book. And she was just like, this is great. And I was like, it was a mild one. It was not it was more, I would say, more of a romance.
Not too spicy.
Not Colleen Hoover spicy. Although that is on my Kindle, but I hope
we have a guest this week. This kitty's name is Buckwheat, and he's very feisty. Hi, are you feisty?
We're best friends. I want you to look at my face and believe me.
Audrey and Buckwheat hate each other.
It's fine. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Anyway, back to books.
I think there's been this really I saw an interview where this bookstore was talking about how, these Colleen Hoover books, he's like, I love it. We've stocked all of them. And he's like, I just see groups of women come in and start discussing them in the aisles. And he's like, honestly, with the rise of BookTok, it saved our store because girls are coming in just massive herds to pick up these books. And then it leads them. And that's my takeaway from it. Whether you like it or not, it's getting people reading and then they're discovering what genre they like.
I completely agree with that. And we'll talk about the book. While it's not for me necessarily, I do agree with you. If you just go into Target or any stores, you'll just see Colleen Hoover and you'll see these types of books everywhere. And people are actively buying them, which is good for the publishing business. It's good for like reading, like in general, and like literacy. So I agree with you. I don't think it's bad, even if it's not what I want.
Yeah, and when they run out of them, they're gonna find something else. That's how I feel about Twilight. Also, you know, it's like a great just on display here. I swear I have more literary like merit books, but like you are in my fun section here.
Fun
My
section.
romance. Hold on.
I mean, you do you know.
with the old, I do think I have an old Fabio cover too. Well, it's on the spine.
Oh, spicy.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. But yeah, I think it's like it got young girls into reading, and then they just like started to find genres, and you know, you run out of that author, and then you find other things, and I think that's great. Now, I will say Colleen Hoover is not my type of author, but that's because I love a good paranormal romance.
We know this fact well. We know this fact deeply.
And which I think is why I picked up this one, because like out of all of Colleen Hoover's, this was gonna be the one that I was like, yeah, I'll and it's not paranormal, but it's got enough, not just
Yeah, it has like that, like, I mean, clearly it's a mystery, but it has that like unknown sense throughout it of like, is this strictly the real world, or is there a little bit of mysticism, ghosty stuff happening?
exactly. So that was just my little, you know, preface also for the Colleen Hoover girlies. Leave them alone, people. Let women enjoy things.
I mean, because that's the big thing. Like, as a society, we see like, oh, women and girls like this, it's bad.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, a good example of why people make fun of Colleen Hoover novels, is because it's like meant for like women and not just women, but like for people to enjoy.
But that's like who they are. If women are drawn to it, it becomes a target. Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think, before we talk about the book, I'm curious, like, what do you all think about, like, because you mentioned like cover design and these books in general, what is it that we think like brought people interested in them? Like, I don't know, like what was the most important reason, do you all think?
I think it's the cover designs.
The cover design?
I think it's
go ahead.
I think it's that, and then like, what's that book called? Icebreaker, whatever, the like hockey romance book. There's like tons of videos of like people making like actual hockey players like read certain scenes, and the hockey players are like, oh, what is this? And so then I think that makes people be like, oh, well, if this man is like, oh my god, then I have to like read this.
Okay, so like cover design and like style, but also like TikTok, social media.
Yeah. Oh, the TikTok has moved it, but also for the hockey players, once again, leave them alone. You know, like
it's weird.
Like sexual assault goes both ways, and that's really borderline, people.
Yeah, I mean, because it's one thing to be like the social media stuff, like involving them in fun ways, like that's great and light. It's like the like obsession that some people have, like,
or like
icky.
Somebody's hockey player wife had to be like, please stop, I'm married to this man. And like, if I were that wife, I'd be like, yeah, back off so fast.
Yep. Understandably.
But I think maybe some people didn't really realize what a romance novel was, because it had such a bad stigma, because once again,
it's like bodices.
Yeah.
You know,
bodices and boobs.
I feel like that's a title, or it's like very close.
Oh, really?
I feel like it's like bodices and something.
I'll look it up for us.
I just remember one time an old man was like, I'm here to pick up a dirty book for my wife. And I was like, oh, okay.
Kind of sounds like my husband, to be perfectly honest. He'd be like, I need to pick up this one very specific paranormal romance with fairies. These are some of my, I thought I'd pull up some of my lovely. I don't have a lot.
I couldn't find a book called Bodices and Boobs, by the way, but I just have a lot of Google images of tight corsets. So we're putting that away now.
I'm really glad that's
for you.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, I mean, look at these nowadays. Like, that's adorable.
Yeah, I did see someone that's like, let's talk about these cutesy covers for these romance novels that when you read them, you're like, oh, this is not Cartoon Network. This is Adult Swim, you know. Timely reference.
I do think there needs to be more, because I was thinking about it. Like, I think there needs to be more separation in the genre between like the hardcore, because right now they're just kind of romance. And now it used to be you could be like, oh, because of this cover, I know I can gauge the spice level on it.
Yes, I think that's a good point. Because like
And now
there's difference between like plot-driven romances and plot-driven that are also spicy, and then some that are just straight up porn in a book, and they're
yeah,
all kind of together. Yeah.
yeah. And I do think that that's something that like they need to figure out, because not that one's better than the other, but just like sometimes I want a plot with a little romance, which is why I like the mysteries, like the paranormal. There's always a like mystery plot and then a side romance.
Yeah, it's all about the balance of what your preferences are.
Yeah,
anyway.
what your preferences, but also like, you know what, we've all read Ice Planet Barbarians, right?
Yeah. Those ice planets
and they're barbarians.
That's about the gist.
Honestly, should Audrey and I pretend to know the plot and tell you it? Okay,
Yes.
So there's this planet called Ergia. Ergia, right? Yeah, and what happens on the planet Ergia, Audrey?
Some barbarians come in, and then they like are like, give us this girl,
or we're gonna ice your planet.
Yeah.
And that's a euphemism. I don't know. Anyway, how close are we, Lauren?
I
think by her laughter, we're spot on.
I think so.
No changes needed.
We're so talented.
Listen, you know what I will say about those books, though? They have a lot of world building for.
If you watching this have also read Ice Planet Barbarians, you should contact Lauren and let her know your thoughts and opinions.
Don't contact, but just leave it alone.
Find her social security number, steal her identity, and then let her know about Ice Planet Barbarians.
Please don't do that.
Threatening to dox you on the pod. Great times. Great times.
Should we get into Verity?
Let's do it. I can't wait to hear Audrey's opinions of the novel that she read in totality.
Yeah. Well, I remember the SparkNotes summary. We'll see. That's how I got through all of my book reports. You know, that's how I got an A on my Scarlet Letter test. Also because my teacher was kind of an idiot. No offense to that woman.
Who's definitely listening right now.
She sells candles and is a preacher now, I think.
So. You read so many details. She can find us.
It's fine. She knows that's probably why she wanted to be a preacher, because she knew she was not a great teacher.
Whoa.
Well, that has a lot of layers to get into at another time.
Just do a whole gossip episode. But yes, Lauren, let's talk about Verity.
So many people consider Verity to be one of Colleen Hoover's best books. I would say, do you all agree or disagree? But I know that you haven't read any of her other works.
I will say, though, I do have an opinion on this, because I did read a lot of people talking about Verity, and just in general, searching Colleen Hoover, it's often the easiest one to find like people talking about it, if that makes sense. And so to me, that does indicate that it at least has the most attention, if not is the favorite.
I think, well, it gets into the this like, what genre is it? Like, you can't even, that's what I think is fascinating to me about it. I don't think that I've actually not read her other books. None of them have really seemed that intriguing to me. This is the only one, and I loved it. And it's kind of one of those, like, I can leave it at that, I think, and be like, that's going to be the book I love. Maybe I'll pick up something else. But she hasn't written anything else like this. She hasn't written this thriller romance style. And I think it's so unique. I'm surprised. Like, what genre would you classify this as besides romance?
Like mystery, kind of thriller. It's like kind of like, I think it's like trying to be a little like literary fiction-y. Like they're trying to build some themes. I don't think it is literary fiction, but I do think it's trying in some ways.
Which is like weird. It's like a weird undertone that you have while reading it, but you're also trying to read it so fast to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. When I don't know about you. I think books about writers who are writing always are very hard for me to pin down, because it's all meta. like at every moment it's like, this is about writing and we're talking to you and I am writing this as Colleen Hoover also. So I think that probably adds to that.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question was going to be about well, you've read the first 3 chapters, Audrey, so you'll know what happens for this. It's the opening meet cute. I think it's one of the most like interesting meet cute. Thoughts and opinions, go.
I wish I could translate laughter to words for y'all so you can understand what's happening right now. You said, oh, meet cute. I'm translating live. I have thoughts about it. Am I close?
No.
Okay. Do you have words to use?
Just like she met him after she witnessed a man's head getting popped under a tire. Like, what? Not like, oh, we accidentally ran our carts into each other at the grocery store because I wasn't paying attention because I got distracted by the cheese samples. Like, no, a horrific accident covered in blood that's not mine. He's like, let me help you get this off. What? Then she's like, oh, he's attractive, but he's married. It's like, girl, you just witnessed trauma. Like, pay attention to that and not the fact that you're horny. Like, what are we doing?
But what does that say about the book, too? Because it sets you up in such a weird, like, am I into this? Am I not? Like, shouldn't you be upset?
I think it just made me have so many questions about her. Like, because she, like you said, she doesn't really ever process this dramatic, traumatic situation, right? She experiences this violence and then is like, okay. And she does talk about it more, but yeah.
She just kind of goes, but he was hot. The other guy that came to my, oh, he's married.
That was her takeaway, which is weird. Also,
sorry,
my cat's trying to get to Audrey's food. She's not here for it.
So then this leads me into why do you think that Jeremy selected Lowen to ghostwrite Verity?
See, I feel like it depends on how you interpret a lot of the novel. Because I guess like one of my thoughts is that they're all kind of shit people. And I think that this was like either I have two options. Either he picked her because he thought she was weak, or he picked her because he thought she was psychopathic and he's into that. Those are the two things I think. But what do you think?
I lean towards psychopathic. I also think he weirdly sees part of his wife in her. There is like a mirroring, you know, and so like, yeah, maybe her writing is similar to hers because they're both a little.
He's a type. Crazy. I mean, maybe it's like, I don't know, the like weird meet cute of it all made him like develop some sort of weird attraction. Like we both experienced this violence together. Like want to bone while my wife's dying, all these things. I don't know.
Yes. That's all I have to say. I was more curious on your thoughts. I was just like the entire time for the first half. Which does lead us into like what caused Jeremy to fall in love with Lowen and vice versa, and like were they justified in doing so? Like
like in the cat is like in my crotch. Anyway.
Sorry. I was gonna say something. I'm gonna keep it to probably not the internet.
See, that's it.
Didn't her mom die? Wasn't she still grieving? Did I miss that? Sometimes grief makes you do weird things, and falling in love with your like person you're ghostwriting for husband is one of them. You know.
Well, like a big thing with the book though is I think it's always talking about what is right and what is acceptable to do. So to your question of like, was it okay? Like, I think that they're all kind of messed up in their understandings of okayness or not okay. So like for them, sure. For me, no. I don't know. What do you think? Mrs. read the full novel.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming it didn't seem that he was like, from the summary, that he was like loved his wife anymore. And also, she was like comatose, so he was like, "Well, I'm not getting any from her, so might as well
Go
get
this
it from
way.
this woman who seems desperate for love." So
So sad.
I do think there is like, I don't know, because like as a reader, you read it and you first go, he's married. This can't be the like the male figure that she's gonna fall in love with. Like, because like when you first start, you don't know that like an accident has happened to his son. So then you're just kind of like, okay, that's weird that you're setting this up and it's with a married man, and you're like, don't know if I can. And then the entire time you're also like, no, you can't fall in love with him. He's married. Like, even if his wife's in a coma, like, blah, blah, blah. And then we get into the really, like, oh, Verity, like, did some horrific things that you go, like, it's, I do think it gives the reader a weird shift because you start with he's married. You shouldn't support this. And then as you go, okay, but he's married to, like, a horrible person. So is it okay? And you kind of just, like, it leaves you
kind of wonder.
It makes you unsettled the entire time in every plot point. That's my thing. Not just like the main plot. Every relationship is unsettling.
I think that's fair. Also because what was the main character's name again?
Lowen.
Lowen.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think that she didn't really question it too much either. And I think that was also something that was interesting. Like from the start, she was kind of like, no, this is justified for these reasons. Like either she's dead or she's done bad things or all that stuff. And so I think that if anything, that's what was weirdest to me. Not to like make judgments on their choices to like cheat and those kind of things. Mostly just like that she didn't even think about it as a decision that much, you know?
Yeah. Which kind of leads into the next one. I'm debating. Okay, we're gonna come back to the other one because I want to discuss this first.
Yes.
Who was ultimately like good or evil in the book? Like, what of the main characters? Like, because or like who thinks that they're the hero in the book?
Okay, my argument.
Yeah.
We can debate this. I think that they're all evil, but I think that they all think that they are the hero. I don't think anyone thinks that they are bad. Genuinely, don't think they think it.
I mean, they always say the villain doesn't, sometimes, most of the time, the villain doesn't know that they're the villain. They're like, yeah, this is correct.
Good point. I mean, because we often think like with villain characters, because you think of like characters like in Disney movies where they're like very so clearly, this is the bad person. They know they're the bad person. They do clearly bad things. But in real life, I think we all have bad things in us and it's more complicated.
Okay, which I do think leads us into like the other question that I was going to ask was how Colleen Hoover takes what I think are actual pregnancy fears and really distorts them in a way that you kind of go, okay, but like not to the extent, but like these fears that she has about her body, these fears that she has that like he's going to love the children more than me. Like I think every like childbearing person like kind of has that in the back of their mind, and like especially like she's like, I have to give birth to these things, and like
not these things.
She calls them like parasites. She does horrific things that you go, oh my gosh. But I think the unsettling thing is it's rooted in a little bit of that like pregnancy fear that people have.
I can see that. You know, when I obviously I won't be able to get pregnant myself in lifetime, nor would I enjoy that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I did up until like near the end, I had like a lot of empathy for Verity almost the whole time, even when she was doing bad things, because I was taking like this like kind of postpartum approach. Like it seemed like this was like postpartum depression that was not being treated and not being supported by her husband. Again, not to justify it, because she does some wild things that she writes about anyway. But that's kind of what I was thinking of the whole time too. So yeah, I feel that for sure.
I do think it talks a lot about postpartum depression. I think that is where the sympathy comes from for where you also once again go, I don't know if this woman is evil as much as she is like not getting the medical attention that she needs.
I think that's a good distinction. And that also might be why I don't like Lowen as a character that much, because I don't know why she didn't at least think that could be what's going on with Verity. You know,
she wants her husband.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Which
fair.
once again circles back to who's the real villain.
Okay, well, we should do like, who do you hate the most in the story of those three characters? Like, who do you think is most villainous?
Jeremy.
That was what I was gonna say too. Not us hating men.
Just over like
From your reading the plot summary, who did you hate most, Audrey?
I mean, because I'll also go with Jeremy. Also, Lowen, mainly because of her response to trauma, and then also her name in general.
it's a horrible name.
But it's like sometimes you can give people a nickname like Lowen when he's supposed to low. Like
No.
what?
No, no. She doesn't get mine. No.
There is only one person in the world who's allowed to be called Low, and they're on this podcast. Like,
obviously, listen, I got that name from my high school cheer team, and nobody could take it away from me.
Snatch.
Like,
yeah, I mean, because I think you can make a case for any of them, but I think that he kind of just sucks in general, no matter the interpretation of like who did things good or bad.
Yeah.
You know, like if you think about like if Verity was completely fictionalizing everything that happened and did no wrong, he's a villain. If she was real, he still killed her either. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's not an approach in which I can get out of him feeling like a bad person.
And also, I feel like, I'm sorry, if you love a woman that dearly, how did you not see the signs that she was having a breakdown? How did you not go?
Men, you know.
Well, that's what. And also, like, you don't get down and dirty with a woman while your comatose wife is upstairs. And that right
like
there,
you could have at least gone to the garden, you know, like go to the garden,
get a hotel, leave. Don't do it in the same home.
The judgment of the garden suggestion. Fine. Shed. I don't know.
Yeah.
With the child there, might I add.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing too, is like that poor child, like
that kid's screwed.
I hope that child gets therapy, but knowing like how this book ended, he is not getting therapy and he's going to become a murderer. That is what his path is.
Lowen.
Honestly, fine with it.
It'll be an Amityville Horror situation.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
There's
Verity too.
2022 version of Verity's like release. They had an extra chapter. Plot twist is the child kills everybody else.
I'd be down with it. Would you?
Sure. I feel like she, from what I remember, she like described that kid as like weird.
Yeah, I didn't pick up anything too weird, but also like I was so focused on how annoyed I was by Lowen that I don't think I really registered the child's personality in comparison, to be honest.
I mean, I don't think the kid was weird. I think she described him as like,
oh, okay.
Like, oh, and I was like, girl, like he's like 5. True. And you're just a woman that just appears at his home. What are you talking about?
But also, like, I'm sorry, 5-year-olds are creepy.
I was a perfectly well-adjusted 5-year-old, I'm sure.
Everything about that statement tells me otherwise.
You could call Beth and Sean and see what they say.
I'll ask my parents, hey, what was I like as a kid? Although, to be honest, normally when I ask that, do you know what they say? And I'm not kidding. They really just normally say he was calm, never cried in public, never really caused a ruckus. That's literally what they say, which is kind of feels weird because I don't think that was true, but they say it is.
In public, but in the privacy of your own home, you're probably a menace.
I just don't think so. Like, I just don't see it for me.
Did you see my eye roll? The amount of just...
Although, to be fair, to connect to what we're talking about, like I think we all became readers like early in our lives. And because of reading, I really was pretty reserved. Like I just, like my punishments for being grounded was they would take away books. And then when they took away books, they were like, but we don't want to make him stop reading. So like there'd be no punishment. But yeah, so I was alone as a child reading a lot.
I was too. It's that once again, it's the only child energy. You just
were you alone reading as a child?
I mean, I was, and then also I would just be watching TV. So as long as I was doing one of those two things, my mom was happy.
Yeah, that's fair.
So brings us to our next question. Was Verity faking her injuries?
Well, okay, so maybe this is a question from remembering reading. We eventually know that she wasn't fully comatose, right? Or do we not know that was real or not? Okay.
I feel like so much of it is like, yeah, but like, did she get better, or like, is she still somewhat like? She says she's faked it for part of it. She admits to that.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if I guess what I would assume is that she didn't get injured or like immobilized to the level that she made everyone think, so that she could figure out what to do, because I think she realized at that point that Jeremy was no good. And I think she was trying to figure out what to do with it.
Well, and I think that brings us to do you think that Verity's writing was a fictional manuscript or an autobiography?
That's such a hard question, though. I guess a question for you, Lauren, is there like consensus online, or is it really divisive?
It's like that's why I said I want to know your thoughts and feelings at the end. It's like a divisive, like there are manuscript girlies and there are biography girlies, like, and you pick a side. Team Edward, Team Jacob.
So should we each pick our side and then have you tell us which side is right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an opinion, Audrey, from your Spark Notes? Not me judging Spark Notes throughout this whole episode.
Wow, tell me you were an English major without telling me you're an English major.
Yep.
Anyway, let's go with manuscript. I don't know why. I'm just like, maybe she just, her postpartum was like too much, and her trash husband wasn't listening to her or paying her any attention. So she's like, I have to get these feelings out somehow. Like a diary.
Well, then I'll take the other approach then. Because I guess because at first when I finished, I think I even told you, Lauren, that I was a manuscript girly when I finished.
No, you didn't. That's why I said I don't.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
I had no idea what you thought.
So right when I finished, I was a manuscript girly. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, as a writer, you do write about your real life, but I guess at least for me, I wouldn't want to distort the truth in such a negative way. Like, I don't know that I would have the motive, like the reason for that. So either way, if she did fictionalize life, super messed up because of what she wrote about with her own kids. Like, that'd be like, I wrote a story about all of us in which I murdered you violently and I explicitly described how I did it.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's weird.
Yeah.
So have you thought about that? Is that a thing you've thought about?
You'll never know. Do we think I could commit a murder? Let's be real.
I mean, I think you could, but I think you'd be real like.
I don't think it'd be a violent one. It'd be something where you like slowly poison somebody, like untraceable, like.
I hate that.
Very methodical, like you've planned it out.
All right, let us know in the comments. What kind of a murderer am I? Hate this.
Don't ask me why I thought of that so intensely.
No one knows. So I'm sensing that you are not a manuscript girly, Lauren.
No. I like to go I think it's, autobiographical. Mainly because I live for the tea and the drama, and I think that it's more interesting if it's that way.
It makes her more complicated at the end. Because if you fully believe like she was fictionalizing this, then she is only a victim, which is still cool. Like, fine, approach, whatever.
She's a victim. Awesome.
Awesome. Super swell. But if she was not, and if it was real, she is a real messed up character, which is very interesting.
And I love it. And then it's like, I don't know. Because if it's not real, then like Lowen just like murdered a woman who was in a very helpless situation, and like it's one of those, I don't know if I can walk away with that. And so maybe I do it to make myself feel better. And I think that's the beauty of this book too, is like you're so ingrained in each character and like their inner monologue to a point where I feel like you feel like there's blood on your hands. Like you walk away from
like
it.
You're a part of it.
So you kind of want it to be autobiographical, because then it's like, okay, well, it wasn't that bad because she was a bad person.
which is also why I think maybe that's not what was intended, because
Yeah,
otherwise
I
I don't think she wanted to absolve her readers in the end of this.
No.
Not with starting with the violence that she started with. I think
No.
it has to be full circle, and that she, yeah,
It's
they
one of
killed
those,
her.
I
Mhm.
think it is manuscript, but also I tell myself it's biographical.
Yeah, that's fair. So we're fence sitter girlies, actually.
Yeah, I see. I know what Colleen Hoover wanted, but I refuse to give her what she wants.
Well, do you actually know like what her intention was? Has she
No,
said that?
I don't think she's ever mentioned it actually. I act like
kind
I'm
of
a
hope she
Colleen Hoover
doesn't.
expert. I just watch TikTok. It's
TikTok
just
is education, though. I mean, that makes me think though, like in like grad school for English stuff. Not to talk about my master's in English right now, but there's like lots of conversations about like author intent and stuff. And my thought is always like it actually doesn't super matter what the author intended. It's kind of what you interpret on the page. So I kind of like that this doesn't have a closed end there, and we don't know what she wanted.
Well, and the thing that I wanted to wrap it up with was, this contains very graphic and erotic scenes for such a thriller. Thoughts and opinions. 'Cause we gotta talk about
Erotica.
What are your opinions on reading erotica, Audrey?
I'm okay with it. I mainly listen to audiobooks, so I usually listen to, that. Sometimes I listen to it at work. It's fine.
See, my thing is like, I don't think I'm like a prude. However, there's something about reading like a graphic sex scene that I am not a fan of. It is not for me. And so like once we got into the scenes that were, and I don't think that they were too spicy. I've read worse. Like levels of
this is not too bad, I don't think.
like I was reading the Emily Henry novel about the two writers. I don't remember what it's called.
Book Lovers?
Is it Book Lovers?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's the book my mother picked up on my Kindle.
See, the thing though, that book, the writing, really good. I think it was a really good narrative.
People love
But
Emily Henry.
yes, but the like sex scenes were very explicit. And I was like, I can't read you talking about its penis right now. I can't do it. It's too much. So I'm not a super huge fan of those scenes myself.
I think I really wonder what the experience was for Audrey. Since you read the Spark Notes, you wouldn't have gotten the smut. So you just got the plot.
Should I get to the part where she was like, you can stay in our room, which one, weird. But then she was like, oh, there are teeth marks on this headboard. And then she was like, what? I was like, why?
Yeah, and you get directly told why there are teeth marks.
And you're like, this is bad.
Beaver.
It's like when she's like having her sex with him, and then she's also biting a head thingy, and then she's like, the head thingy, horrible language, headboard.
Yeah.
And then she's like, wow, Verity did this too. And it turns her on more. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. And I think that's, once again, circling back to what makes this book so weird is you go in going, Colleen Hoover, romance. And like, yeah, you're still getting that, but even the romance in it is so twisted. And you're like,
for sure.
Am I here for this? Am I rooting for this?
Into that though.
That's fair.
Yeah, you've got a lot of dark romance. I don't know. I think for me, I'm not a dark romance reader. I can't do that. I applaud, not going to yuck somebody's yum.
Yeah.
Applaud them for it. I'm just a sensitive soul and it freaks me. Like, not my vibe.
They're like stalking them and they're like, I will kill any man who looks at you. Just once. Like, you're like, oh.
This way. Dead.
Mafia.
Yeah.
Mafia stuff. But I think it's an interesting take on a thriller. It's one of those I do think that I enjoy, like, and I'm never one of these people that's like, oh my gosh, I read it for the plot. Okay. I loved the plot in it. I thought it was a great, like a well-written plot. And like the fact that there was some smut in there, I was like, okay. But I did find myself.
I would have liked it more without the smut, but again, that's just the preferences thing. I think it was well written.
I think it's like her thing, and so like that's kind of what makes her brand. And so I kind of applaud it because I'm like, you know what? You just kind of made your own little subgenre.
True, she did, and she has a monopoly on the TikTok and the book market.
She does.
to be
So
that
many
woman.
people.
Just like the amount of copies of Colleen Hoover novels at Target alone, like at Target, you know, that's not like the place everyone goes to buy books. Full rows of shelves in our Target that are just Colleen Hoover, and then some others like some Emily Henrys or people thrown in too.
Yeah. I was like, the library has like 2 to 3 copies of each of her books, and when she became popular, there's like a whole period, like months, of her books not being there. And I was like, who is this woman? What is happening? And then I was like, oh, she got popular on TikTok. Okay. And I was like, I sort of hated her mainly because every girl was like, do you have Colleen Hoover? Or I'm looking for an author. Her name's Colleen Hoover. I was like, we don't have any of her books. Or I'd be like, you could go check the shelf to see what's there because I can't look through all of this. So
But also,
Stop hating thing girls like, Audrey.
I know. I just hate the
girls
fact that like they keep showing up and they're always like sad and disappointed that it's gone. It's like you and every other person in America is trying to read this.
But think of the sexual
Liberation.
Thank you. I can
The
speak.
sexual liberals.
I'm trying to say the sexual liberation that these women are experiencing. I do think that is a thing with romance novels. And like, you know, some people are like really, and I'm like, you know what? Everything else is for men. All the movies have such like just very like through a male gaze, like vision of sex. And like, is it a great one to depend on? Like, no, but it's at least something through a female gaze.
And I think that's, I mean, it's like we were talking about Saltburn. That's similarly something that's so cool about that is like getting a different perspective on common things we see.
And also, I feel like that's something that like for like the, you know, commercialization of things, like think about it, like when you make something for, you know, the women, the theys and the gays, it is marketable. People don't believe that it is, but I think this is another example of it being very marketable.
Absolutely. Just ask the Target shelves. They're everywhere.
Just ask the libraries.
Also, Target, please stop putting Colleen Hoover in the YA section. Don't do that.
That is true. Like it needs to be separate.
It's like somebody, I love that people are like, look at this. No, somebody just didn't know, they saw a cute cover and they didn't know how to shelve it properly.
Yeah.
But maybe be aware of that. Be aware. Maybe we should put like a little sticker on the back. Something
that says
spicy.
YA.
On a Colleen Hoover novel.
No, that you meant like in general.
Yeah, in general.
Well, there is like YA, like I know on like the like barcodes, but like apparently Target shelves are not looking at that. The amount of times that I've gone in there and just been like, you know what, I'm just gonna put this over here because no teen needs to be picking this up right now. You know
They're
what?
not ready for Verity.
That's what Twilight is for.
Exactly.
Start small.
Start with Breaking Dawn, move on to Verity, and
that's a leap.
It is a huge leap. Maybe read some other stuff in betwixt. I don't know.
Maybe read To All the Boys I Ever Loved. Like,
that has 0 smut in it, so that's perfect.
Yeah, before Twilight, because Twilight alludes to smut. You know,
there's no smut in the actual pages pointing that out.
Yeah.
All right. That's the end of my episode.
Smooth transition.
Yeah, it's so smooth. Lauren, you know what I forgot we didn't talk about on our Saltburn episode was the doobly doo. Do you want to tell people to put the thing in the doobly doo?
If you have comments on Colleen Hoover, trust me, I'll respond to all of them. Please comment in the doobly doo.
Yes. All right, I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.